Everybody, this is Roberto Park with Innovative Sports Training. Hope you're having a great day today. Let's talk about grains, breads, pastas, cereals. Basically, carbohydrates. You hear a lot today about low carb, high fat, low carb, high protein. I don't think a lot of people really understand the differentiation of good carbs versus bad carbs. I'm going to go into that just a little bit today, but first I want to talk about why you should minimize your carbohydrate intake. Let me rephrase that. You should minimize simple carbohydrate intakes. There's a difference between simple and complex. Simple carbohydrates are things like sugar, breads, grains, and cereals. Those are simple carbs. And I would even throw in things like potatoes and possibly even rice. Now, rice is a little bit debatable with certain trainers, practitioners, nutritionists, but I would even consider rice. But sometimes it's per individual. There are some individuals who can handle consuming higher amounts of carbohydrates. There's some that cannot. But that's another topic. I've talked about that much in the past. Check out some of my past video blogs. But let's get into it. No breads, pastas, or grains. Why? Because those products contain high amounts of gluten. Now there is bad gluten and somewhat good gluten, which I'm not going to go into today. But basically you want to avoid gluten products. Why? Because gluten is pro-inflammatory, meaning that your body becomes inflamed systemically, or maybe even isolated parts. It could be your joints, it could be your gut, it could be your gallbladder, it could be certain organs in the body, glands in the body. So pro-inflammation is not a good thing. That can lead to a lot of problems like diseases and illnesses. Heaven forbid, even things like cancer. So if you're consuming high amounts of gluten for a lot of years. Now, how can I avoid consuming these, what I call simple carbohydrates? Pre-plan your meals. You got to budget out your time, brown bag it, make your meals at night before you go to work or before you go to school. Pre-plan your meals. Read labels. You have to look for hidden sources of gluten, things like ketchup, certain condiments, even spaghetti sauces. Some alcoholic beverages like beer and certain types of wine have gluten. They put that stuff in there. They use gluten also to make some of the stuff that you make gravy with, because it thickens it up. Gluten is a very good thickener in foods. That's why they put it in foods. Plus it's very cheap to do it that way. So look for hidden sources in certain ingredients in foods. When you go to a restaurant, review the menu. Ask questions. Be a pain in the butt if you have to. But you have to ask questions. Well, if you're going to be a social person going out to eat a lot, you have to really know what you're eating. Look at the menus. Progressively wean yourself off of consuming higher amounts of carbohydrates. If you're not an extremely active person, you don't exercise, you're not very active on your feet a lot during the day, keep your carbohydrate, I'd say less than 50 grams a day. In fact, it might be even lower than that if you're very inactive. But you keep your carbohydrate intake low. Gluten-free products. Now, I'm not always a big fan of gluten-free products. I like staying away from gluten, but sometimes when I see gluten products, gluten-free products, they contain other junk in there because it gives the stuff more flavor. They sometimes will put sugar in there, or they put some other type of ingredient that you can't read. You need a PhD to figure it out just to enhance the flavor of it, which is not always good for the body. So be cautious of that. But here's a way to avoid a lot of gluten in your eating. Consume good sources of fibrous produce. Things like dark berries, spinach, broccoli, I could go on and on here, asparagus, cauliflower. Those are what I call fibrous fruits and vegetables. You have to increase your fibrous intake. That will help will help keep the insulin levels down low in your body so your insulin's not shooting up like this all the time, along with glucose. So you want to keep your blood sugar stable. That is another reason why you want to avoid a lot of high, simple carbohydrates. They tend to elevate your blood sugar. And if your blood sugar is always elevated, eventually you will become insulin resistant because insulin will stop hearing the message. Now, these down here, the more fibrous sources of carbohydrate or fiber, those are what I call more complex carbohydrates. Eat more of these types of things. Consume less of this. If you're addicted to breads, pastas, grains, cereals, and sugars, gradually wean yourself off of it. Rome was not built in a day. Now, some people are not very disciplined, so they just can't say, I'm going to consume 0 pastas and grains and breads and cereals and sugars. You have to progressively wean yourself off of it. And that's where I come in. If you need help with anything in your program, your lifestyles, in terms of your training, your activity levels, your nutritional, dietary intake, give me a call. Here's my phone number, 816-405-7703. I'll be more than happy to sit down with you and we can establish a program based upon your specific needs. If you're out of town and you're not here locally where I live in the Kansas City area, give me a phone call. We can do things via the telephone and via the internet. No problem. We can connect that way. Guys, thanks for listening to this. Take care of yourselves. God bless.